What's up, good people? Welcome back. And I'm saying welcome back to Montgomery Company because I'm assuming that you watched Steve Nash's interview yesterday and you're coming back because you want to see the rest, the other half of it. So welcome back. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. That's good for we just need the love. So speaking of that, I don't usually say these things, but I need to start saying these things. So please follow, like, subscribe, turn on your notifications. I don't know how the algorithms are going to act, so I'm just asking you to do that because we got a lot of heat coming up on the show, even starting with this conversation with Steve. I mean, the Hall of Famer, he talks about it all, the mind of an athlete, block training, everything. It's time. Let's go! So, first of all, welcome. Listen, point guard to point guard. This is lit. I'm telling you right now, because you're one of those players that everybody knows who you are. Everybody knows what you've done, two-time MVP, which doesn't happen from the point guard position. So Steve Nash, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Renee. It's great to be here. Big fan of yours.
Oh, please, listen, y'all get me hype up in here, but listen, it's NBA playoffs right now. And the NBA playoffs are going on right now, and we've seen some game sevens. You played in 4 game sevens during your NBA career, 2 with the Phoenix Suns in 2005 and 2006, and 2 with the Dallas Mavs in 2003 and 6. And so I'm just curious because when you've already played against a team 6 games, what is your mindset? What are the things you're keying in on that game 7?
That's why people say game 7 is like the greatest phrase in sports. Because like if you play a one-off elimination game, it can be great. It's still everything's on the table and it's high pressure and high stakes. But when you play a team 7 straight times, and it takes like 2 weeks or more, there's more on the table, because now it's personal. You've been going at them and they've been going at you for, like I said, 2 weeks. And so it's a really special opportunity to kind of finish a series in dramatic and emphatic fashion when everything's on the line like that. So it's kind of like such a unique situation that it's really almost hard to prepare or to visualize. You have to go through it in a sense. It's about controlling your emotions. It's about being present, and fortunately, I think everyone has a different psychological makeup. Some people are probably like scared before the game. Some people are like just so confident, and then it all kind of meets back in the middle when the game starts.
And what was your energy?
Yeah. I think I was like in the middle. I was like confident, but also anxious. Like I was definitely kind of had nerves and anxiety, but also confident. And I think for me, I always kind of had this thing like I hope like luck is on your side as well. Like I know I've done the preparation, but you know how it is. You have good games, bad games, the ball goes, it doesn't go, whatever. Like that stuff happens too. So I always kind of almost had this like part of me that was thinking cosmically, like what's happening and how's this gonna play out? I know I'm ready, I know we're ready, but you never know how the ball bounces. And so unfortunately that's probably a waste of energy because you don't have any control over that anyways. But
sounds good though, but you're going to waste that energy. It sounds good, but
you are going to waste the energy no matter what, because it's a stressful thing. But that is the best feeling in the world, to have that stress and to have it all on the line. And there's nothing better. I coached a game 7 a couple of years ago against with the Nets against the Bucks, and we went to overtime in game 7. KD towed the line on a 3.
On the line.
Yeah. But I just remember like how badly I wish I could have played.
You're coaching the game. I was going to ask that. So you be in those big moments, you want to be out there because it's like, is it the control thing? Because you know that you're ready and could like control and do things that you wanted to do.
Okay, let me be clear. Like I really didn't want to be out there because I know those days are gone. But the opportunity to play in a game 7 is like,
of course.
I was envious for the guys. Like I was happy for them. I wanted them to enjoy it, and it's so special. And you don't get the opportunity to do it. I played 18 years. I played it, like you said, in 4, and so it doesn't come around often. And so I was excited for the team, but also in a way envious because I'll never play in a game 7 again.
Facts. No, I mean, we have game fives in the WNBA, and for 3 years straight, I played in three game five of fives. And you're right. There's something about that experience where that's why people want vets on their team. Like when people say, like, oh, why is this
Yeah.
guy getting picked up? And it's like,
Right.
he's been there. He's going to know how to tell people what to think,
Right.
how to feel, and all of those different things. And that also kind of makes me think about like when point guards and controlling the game. And we're going to get into that later. But as a Hall of Famer, you played in the league 18 years, two-time MVP, which is an elite group that only very few can claim, very few point guards in particular can claim. But there's so much talk about legacy and championships. And Giannis talked about how that process matters. The process of all of it matters. You talked about you played in 4 game 7s. You were a part of the process. So do you think winning is in player shapes a player's legacy? Like, do you have to win a championship for it to
Mhm.
shape your legacy, or does that really or the process matter?
I think it does. Like in the modern, like I never won a championship, and I think if I had of, your perceived legacy would be different. I we're really close with Dirk and his family, and the Finleys. Like we played together in Dallas, and we're family friends, and we go on vacations together, and like that is a cherry on top of their resume. And for them to have capped their career with a championship. So that is that is real. At the same time, like this is all perceived, right? Like we make all these narratives up. So
Facts.
you can also like create your own perception, right? And so for me, like, yeah, it hurts still a little bit that I didn't win a championship. At the same time, like life is so much bigger than basketball, and the fact that I personally or my teams didn't get it done, that's what makes it special to win. And
That's
must
true.
have played in 4 or 5 conference finals and never got over the hump, but gave it everything I had. I was obsessed with my craft, and I hope I'll be remembered as a great teammate, leader, and competitor. But didn't win a championship. So I'm sure my legacy is my I guess my body of work speaks for itself. I had a great career, but it didn't have that cap on it. At the same time, like I got so much out of the game of basketball, so many incredible memories, and there's so much more to life that's important to me. That I'm busy living, not busy looking in the past and seeing what I accomplished and what I didn't accomplish.
No, I love that because it is the bigger picture. Like I think if people understood the process of how hard it is to even lose in a conference finals, like if people understood that honestly, like, and I know like people are gonna be like, oh, more of it, like that honestly is tough. Like there's some teams that would love to make it to the conference finals, and then there were some teams
Mm-hmm.
that would love to make it to the finals as well. And everybody wants to win a championship, but if people really understood how hard the process was and how good everyone
Right.
is. I mean, I was talking to Charles Barkley during a roundtable discussion and had Spike Lee, Jackie McMillan, and all these other people on there. And we were basically talking about like it was called the Great Debate, and we were talking about that what you said. Who makes the rules for why something is a GOAT or the greatest or anything of that
Right.
nature? I mean, because when you even look at MVPs awarded back to back, you said you hope your legacy. Yes, there's the MVP's Most Valuable Player Award was debuted in 1955, and there have been 14 instances by 12 people in which they have won back-to-back seasons, and you're
Mhm.
one of them. So I don't want like there's
Yeah.
not really a lot of people that can be in that category, and so your legacy
Right.
is defined by that. What was that time period like though? Like I mean, and winning it
Mm-hmm.
once is one thing. To do it again, unheard of.
Well, first of all, thank you. I was fortunate. When I left Dallas to Phoenix, that team was a perfect fit for me. They had won 26 games the year before I got there, and I think we won 63 my first year, so 62, 63 my first year, and but they needed a creator, they needed a leader, and so it was a great fit for me. And we had some really, I think, in a way, we impacted the game and more than just our play. I think we influenced the way it was played. We played fast. We played in transition. We played pick and roll, and we're able to spread people out. And I was able to create, and that highlighted my strengths. I think for me though, what's important about that is the story. I'm a kid from the west coast of Canada. I didn't have NBA players in my neighborhood. I mean, I didn't like, there wasn't the access to the elite of the game. We had Sonics games we had the Seattle TV stations to get Sonics games, which
Let's
helped us fall in
go.
love and see the game at the highest level. But it's a story of a kid who had a dream and a ball and a hoop and got obsessed with it and would go out and practice every spare moment and just kept chipping away. I had one scholarship offer to Santa Clara that came late. Like I visited Santa Clara after my senior year. The offer, they came to see me like in my state, like with provincial championship. So it wasn't like they even saw me until
Crazy.
like the end of my high school year. So I could have very easily gone to a Canadian university or college. So like that's the story of, I think, just having a dream, having a passion for something, sticking to it, putting days on top of each other and never letting go. And so it's a story about becoming obsessed with something and it just, I think, is something that for me it means a lot to me because I think it's something that can transfer to other people in whether it's in basketball or whatever it is in life, to believe, to make a plan for yourself, to be creative, to put pen to paper and build the life you want to build. And so that's really what it means to me. Basketball is beautiful and I love the game and it's given me so much, but life is bigger. And there's a lesson in there, I think, that I can share from my experience with everybody.
No, I love that. And it makes me, you talked about building, and it makes me think about, you have a new app called Block Training where you
Mm,
talked about, you're a guy that loves movement. Movement is essential to
mm,
everything. Your mental health, your mood, your sleep, your diet, relationships are heavily influenced by the movement of the body. So just tell me about why you even wanted to start Block Training and about it.
mhm. Oh, thank you. Yeah, this all started in my career. I was, as you know, as you just said, I had a one scholarship kid that just wasn't the biggest, tallest, fastest, most explosive player. I wasn't going to overpower people. I wasn't like, at the end of the gene pool that some of these incredible athletes are that you're competing with. So I had to have this curiosity to try to win the margins. And so that led me to like, what are the best practices in like training, skill acquisition, recovery, diet, sleep, all these things. And this is when, now these things are all pretty common, but 20, 25 years ago wasn't nearly as common. And so I went on this kind of journey to try to find out how I could improve and how I could compete in different ways. And, one of the ways that had a huge impact on my life was really training myself to move well, to movement training. And I got to work with Dr. Rick Celebrini, who's now, we were two guys from the West Coast of Canada. Now he's the head of sports science for the Golden State Warriors and had a big impact on the Warriors, but just a brilliant movement mind and genius. And just so a lot of the fundamentals, though, that I learned in my career, I thought I learned could be really impactful for everybody. So just little principles of movement like mobility, stability, balance, coordination. These things are the fitness industry, we're taught you have to go out there and you have to, walk or run for an hour 3 times a week. I think that can be very inaccessible to a lot of people.
Facts.
I think there's a smarter way to do this. We're talking about a lot of people that maybe are intimidated to start. So whether
So
you're a
you have a
professional
daily 8
athlete
routine
or
about for something like, I think I read that, or I might have saw on Good Morning America. First of
yes,
all, you were on Good Morning America, and I think you're hinting to the point of you create a routine that like you could actually get into a
hmm
routine of it. You don't have to almost
right,
derail your schedule to do this daily 8 routine, right?
that's right. So that was the one of the evolutions of this whole concept was I wanted to share like the movement training principles that I'd learned because I think they can extend people's health span, right? So we talk about lifespan in the United States, average lifespan is 77. Average health span, which is a growing term, is your good health years where you're active, you're living your best life, and you're avoiding chronic disease. That's 63 and kind of plateauing. So like our good years are kind of plateauing, but we're living longer because of medicine. We should be able to close that gap where people can live a decade or two more at a high level where they're having a great quality of life. And so fundamental to health span are exercise, mental health, diet, sleep, and social interaction. But exercise, and we say movement because the fundamentals of movement are purposeful quality movement are going to be long lasting and longevity inducing. But exercise is also research shown to help sleep, to help mental health, to help
Mhm.
dietary choices, and to be the people that are more active are more likely to be socially interactive. So movement is a trigger for all the pillars of health span. So what I really want is to make it accessible for people. And so then I said, it doesn't matter if I have, Rick Celebrini or the best methodology in the world. If people aren't going to make a healthy habit out of movement, we're not going to make an impact. So I really started to study the habit sciences and what it takes to create a habit. And one of the principles of habits is to make it almost harder to fail to begin.
Mm.
So 8 minutes,
Is that why you
we
made it
all
so
have eight
small?
minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that why you
Right,
pretty much shrunk it
right,
down? 8 minutes in your day makes you
right.
almost feel guilty if you don't do it because it's like, oh, I couldn't do 8 minutes to my movement today, to my body, to my health, to my mind.
That's right. That's right. And so what it is like, it's whether it's you that's an elite athlete that wants to just stay super fit and active. It could be something you do before you go work out or whatever it is that you want to do. Or it's someone that's really, I don't know where to start. But I know I fail every time I got to go to a group fitness class or I got to start a running program. It's too much. I don't know how to fit it in my life, especially when we get to our 30s. We wake up not feeling quite the same. We have a career, we might have a
Facts.
family, we have all sorts of obstacles. So creating a healthy habit, if you can't invest 8 minutes, I'm not sure how else I can help you. And so
Like
there's
there's
three,
nothing else you
there's
can do for them, Steve.
right, right. So we're trying to make it this we're going to give you a pathway to create a healthy habit, and hopefully you do it every day, and at minimum you do it every other day. But what you do is you hopefully at some point in your day have 8 minutes to do mobility and stability. There's three different intensities. So my mom in her 70s could do intensity one, and you can build your way up, or you could stay at intensity one. And at the end of the 8 minutes, if you want to stick around because you're warm and this is all you're going to do today physically, there's a 4 minute Tabata. But if all you want to do is
Hmm,
the 8 minutes, or all you want to do is four of the 8 minutes, you are now creating a healthy habit if you can
I
do it
love that.
consistently. What the habit sciences also say is once you create a healthy habit, they beget more healthy habits. So now you start to make better choices. You're more active. You're more likely to make better dietary choices. It improves your mood. So that was a big thing for me. Is I'm a super active person. I play tennis and soccer like 4, 5, 6 times a week, depending on the week.
Dang.
I get a sweat every yeah, I get a sweat every day, really as much because I'm a physical person as because of my mental health. I can't
Right.
sit until I've moved. And so, but for me, doing the daily, creating it and then doing it, which is kind of based off things I do in the morning, anyways, while I'm getting the kids ready for school, I like get my little 10, 15 minutes when they're settled to like get some movement in. But I built it. And what I realized by doing it every single day and being religious about it is that I start my day with an accomplishment. Now have momentum.
Yeah.
I'm in a better mood. I have presence. I can now invest in my relationships from a position of strength rather than, I'm not quite here. I'm thinking about a million things. I'm not organized in my mind. So it's like the mood, the mental health, the ability now to take on your day, the choices you make after doing that or starting your day in that way. And this is designed for everybody. So whether you are going to go to the gym and lift big weights, this is a great warm up for you. Whether you're going to go play a sport, great. If you're someone that's just looking to create a fitness routine or a healthy habit, this is a place to start and a place to stay with as you go through it. Or as you now, maybe you make this a healthy habit and then you become a runner or a cyclist
Right.
or you play a sport. But there has to be an avenue for people to move and extend their health span through movement.
No, I mean, it's interesting you talk about your mental health so much because I would think that when you played in the NBA, did people value mental health as much as we value it now?
Mm,
Because I think that like this is it's great to hear you say that because a lot of times even I would say even when I played, it wasn't as valued as much as it is now.
mhm.
So this is almost like a
Yeah.
new beginning or a new age type of athlete.
100%. I'm glad that now we talk about mental health. I remember like maybe my first 2 years in the league having a lot of anxiety, but didn't even know what it was. Like we didn't express it. You just were
Yeah, because
like,
you had to be
man,
okay.
why do I feel this way? Why am I so nervous? Like, after lunch on the day of a game, like this is crazy. This is not healthy. But I didn't know like you're anxious. Let's talk this out. Let's figure this out. Let's realize why. I was just like, bury that, internalize that, get rid of that so I could keep going, be there early, stay late, keep competing, fighting. I got my way through it, but it's not always the way, right? Like not everyone has a path through that. And so movement, I mean, exercise has been proven to be by far the most effective antidepressant and most relevant mood booster, all those things. But more importantly than that, I'm hopefully that we can make an impact on people's mental health. It's just great that people can talk about it now, because we all have to
Right.
build our minds and our mentality and our willpower and our mood and all those components of being able to navigate life. And so it's a powerful tool that now we're open to expressing it, because it definitely wasn't always the case.
No, I love that. It seems like you built box training almost off of athlete tendencies where they say athletes you can do a book like put a timer on when he walks in the building,
Right,
what their schedule is. And so getting into a routine, we know as athletes is really
right.
everything. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk to you about point guard to point guard because whenever you look, I'm sorry, block training is what I meant to say, but whenever you talk
It's
about
okay.
point guard to point guard, I think that that's what like point guards do. They control, like you even said it, like you're like, huh, I'm internalizing it. I'm getting rid of it because every day point guards have to be okay. You know, like there's certain things that point guards you
Yeah.
can't walk into like if you walk into the gym and your energy isn't right, it's going to be so noticeable because point guards
Yep.
have this added pressure to every day bring it, know what's going on, have a good positive energy. Why, like, do you think that I would say in this day and age, has the term point guard changed almost in a sense of that's not
Mm,
necessarily all the requirements?
mm. Wow, I think that's I've never heard that before. I think you really made a great comment there. One, I think the point guard position has changed. It's now become more like a first point of attack rather than like the person in charge of running the team. But your comment about the mood of the point guard being so important and infectious, because you are the point of attack, whether you're an organizer, a facilitator, or a scorer, you have the ball. You are the first kind of image that your teammates see when they start a possession or at
Literally.
either end of the floor. And so I never thought about it that way, but that is a big responsibility, to be as even keel, to be, as you said, okay, to and not even keel under pressure, but more than okay, just in general. Like, right, like
Literally.
you have to have an infectious energy most of the time, or else you're not really handling your responsibilities as a point guard. So I think that's really interesting. I've never heard someone talk about it in those terms, but that is a really important measure of being a connector, is being in a good mood, or bringing positive energy, or not bringing negative energy, or bringing the room down. So that's an astute point, but I do think it has changed today. I also feel for this generation of players. They grow up with social media, and
Yeah.
it's such a different, all-encompassing thing that has affected them. And I feel for them. It's unavoidable. It's the world they grew up in, and
True.
it's not going away. So we're not changing that. It's like we have to learn to adapt and handle it. And so that's just another element that players today have to recognize and have to deal with, and that can be very difficult. So yeah, I think the point guard's role has changed, but I think that old school DNA can also be a huge, huge part of a successful point guard and a successful team.
No, I love that. And you talked about adjusting, and it's always difficult when a point guard has to adjust. You could become a vet where your role could change, but you're still supposed to be leading your group and leading your team. So you
Hmm.
played 18 years in the NBA. You also coached, but what is it like navigating that role to where you went from MVP to now your
Hmm.
minutes are not the same, but you want to still be
Sure.
the same leader? Like, what is that adjustment period like? Because we see it a lot of times in players. Russell Westbrook had to come off the bench for the
Mm,
Lakers in the beginning. Like, what is that? Like, how do you adjust when you're a point guard and you're trying to lead, but you're not as big of a role
yeah,
anymore?
that is the mortality of an athlete, right? You go
Yes.
through that stage, especially elite athletes. You go through that stage where you have the identity formed around this ability and history, and then all of a sudden you're not quite the same, and usually you're the last to recognize it, because you still have the identity and the competitive spirit, and you still can do it in glimpses. So you still feel and identify with that person. And so it can be really challenging for players at the back end of their career. For me, I I went to the Lakers as a free agent in um, was it 2012? And so I was 38. I just played in the All-Star game as a 38-year-old, my last All-Star game, and went to the Lakers and
Legendary. First
still
of all,
thought,
this is
well,
what? At 38, you
but
played in
but
your last All Star game?
Yes, but my point, and not so much to pat myself on the back, is to say at that moment in time, I still thought that I was that dude. You know what I mean? I thought, I'm going to bring this to the Lakers, and of course, like, probably was declining more than I recognized. And then I also, my first or second game with the Lakers, I bumped knees and broke my tib fib joint on the inside, and
Ouch.
it took me like, man, 6 8 weeks to get over it. But what happened was it really bothered my nerve system, and I had already had a back issue that I'd managed my whole career. And there's kind of this theory in neuropathy that there's two nerve interruptions. It can be like a more of a major issue. And so my issue was like, yeah, probably slowing down a little bit, but more than that, it was like I couldn't recover. So like my level would drop for 2 or 3 games, and I couldn't kind of recover from playing like I could. And so that was a hard thing to go through. And one of the things that helped me through it, was a friend of mine sent me this article, an old article about an Eastern European athlete, I believe, like an Olympian, and it was built on this old, maybe Russian or Eastern European adage that the athlete dies twice. And so, like, we all die a natural death in our life, but the athlete
Mhm.
dies at a young age and has
Yeah.
to kind of be reborn as someone else. And so, if you look at it in those terms, it can really be a benefit to you, because
Mm.
the last thing you want is to never kind of grieve over that former self and still identify with that person that actually is never showing his face again. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you're
because
never going to
Father
be able to do
Time
the
is
things that you
undefeated.
identify with.
It's period.
Right. Right. So whatever the mechanism is to be able to grieve and move on and become somebody else, which isn't easy, even if you have the steps laid out for you, because you're still a human
Right.
being. You still, like, just strange things. Like, I remember it took me 6 to 18 months to kind of go through that process and be very, like, pointed about it, be very, like, clear that I'm going through this. This is going to be difficult, admit it, and
Yeah.
try to work through it. And there would just be days where you'd be like, fine, fine, fine. And then one day you'd be like, yeah, it really leaves a hole not to be able to drive downtown and show off in front of 18,000 people.
Yeah, because
Do you
you
know
were
what I mean?
like,
Like,
yes, because
yeah,
you were at the top of the top. Like a lot of people don't make it to the top of the mountain, and so you made it to the top of the mountain. Like that's what where you were, and then now you're not even on the mountain.
yeah,
You
right,
know,
right,
you
yeah,
just want to
and so
climb.
you can imagine, if you don't deal with it, if you don't face it head on and try to deal with it, it's going to be really difficult. It's gonna present itself in other ways in your life. And so accepting it and still working through it, because accepting it's one thing, but you still are an emotional being. You still have to go through
Yeah.
that. And so, maybe I'm getting way too deep
No,
into what
I
this is,
love
but I think
it
it,
because this
you
is
know,
real talk. Like this is what every athlete, not every athlete, but maybe a lot of athletes will experience and people don't really talk about it because just now we're talking about mental health for athletes. So nobody was definitely talking about it when you were retiring or getting at the end of your career.
right.
And we're talking about the end. I'm going to ask you a couple quick questions before you go, but we're talking about the end of the career, but what about the beginning? You know, you're a coach
Mm,
and you've evaluated talent a lot. Victor Wembanyama has been a name that people are saying is a talent that is generational. Have you seen any of his
mm,
tapes? What do you think about his game?
mm.
Do you think he's one of those generational talents?
Well, I've seen the clips. I haven't really watched
Yeah.
him play a game, but I've seen the clips, and I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you think about the potential of a player his age, his dimensions, to have the ability to move with that frame, but also to be able to handle the ball and shoot from deep, shoot off the dribble with dexterity. But what I think is really fascinating is, like, his rim protection could be,
Right.
perhaps the best of all time. We don't know. We don't know how he matriculates and what his mentality is, but, like, to be that kind of tall, have that length, and have the feet that he has, and be able to move like that. He especially in today's game where you have to cover space. In the old days, you could be a big dude that could hang out around the basket and kind of protect the rim that way. Nowadays, you got to be able to move because you're going to be stretched. You're going to be out in space guarding different positions. So to have that length and be able to cover that much airspace and ground,
Right.
he could be like a historic rim protector and defender, even though I think most people get caught up in seeing him make step back Jays off the dribble. But the total package is very exciting, and I think it's going to be fun to see what he can become, and it'll be incredible for fans to watch that journey.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so last question. We're with the Hall of Fame point guard. So Ray Allen just gave his Mount Rushmore, but I'm curious, who are your top five point guards? And I'm asking him this on the spot, you guys.
Hmm.
I'm just letting you know, like, this question is
Wow.
on the spot, not a lot of time to think, but not the normal Mount Rushmore that everybody says. And I also think that there's eras, and I'm going to say, because I had the great debate, so
Sure.
there's eras and all of these different things, but just from your perspective and your opinion, who are 5 point guards
Right.
that you gravitate towards?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I'll preface it by saying, like, Bob Cousy was the best for generations. But was Oscar Robertson a point guard, or was he a combo or a point forward? So you say all those things, but I would say clearly Magic Johnson for me is kind of top of the list. Isaiah Thomas was my hero
Come
growing
on,
up. That's who
Zeke.
I wanted to play like. That's who I wanted to be like. Like I saw someone that wasn't gonna overpower people or jump over people. That was amazing. I think it's hard for me not to look at the latest generation. There's so many great point guards. Chris Paul, I mean, he's put himself in that category as well. But there's the Jason Kidd, Gary Payton, John
Hmm.
Stockton. So I'm not giving you
Yeah,
four, but
you
I'm
can
giving
leave
you a
and you
bunch
can
of
list them
names
all.
of people that I
Steve
think have had a big
Nash.
impact in the game. Well, I mean, it's to be honest with you, like I'm not a. It's for me, like I know like these are opinions. So to be thought of in that category with some of these guys is like I couldn't ask for anything more of a
Of
kid with one
course.
scholarship who grew up in an English household playing soccer on the west coast of Canada. So it's been an incredible journey, and I admire so many incredible point guards, and there's more coming up every day. I mean, I love Shea. Shea is unreal. So there's so many great point guards
That's
to come in
GA.
this current generation as well. Yeah.
No, I mean, I love that. And like we said all the things before to know that there's not a top five. There's really not. That's why those are people he gravitated towards. But of course, we're adding Steve Nash in that list. 2-time MVP, been to all the, like, just changed the game, even how you played, keeping the dribble, like, okay, keeping the dribble alive and just never stopping. That was you, where people even called it that, the Nash under the basket, where you don't pick up your dribble, you just keep circling around. You have something named after you that came after you for point guard. So, man, I thank you for joining me. And also, too, we were talking about a lot of Canada. WNBA had the first preseason game in
Mm,
Toronto. That was
yeah.
amazing. Sold out in minutes,
Incredible.
17,000. I mean, like, so, I mean, I know, like, I didn't, were you able to go? Were you there? You probably weren't, because I know that you're probably
No,
building, but
I consumed a lot of the clips, and we've had a really strong national team women's program, and got more and more young girls playing at a super high level and making the
love it.
WNBA. So it's beautiful to see so many young Canadians come up and get into the WNBA, and for that game to be sold out in Canada, I think proves like we got to keep investing in women's sports. Like it's amazing how far women's sports. I'll look primarily at basketball and soccer, but like face so many obstacles. And here we are, like selling out in minutes in Toronto, getting 60, 70,000 at women's Champions League games in Europe. Like we got to
Crazy.
keep investing in our youth and our women. And it's beautiful to see Canada support the women's game like that.
Absolutely. Anytime you're in Atlanta, please come bring your daughters to a game, and make sure y'all go check out the app Block Training. I'm telling you right now, if you ain't got 8 minutes, I don't know what to tell you. Hall of Famer Steve Nash, thank you for joining us on Montgomery and Company. Sometimes when you talk to people, it's really easy to see why they are successful or why they became who they became. Like Steve Nash, and the way that he thought and the way that he even thinks now, there's no question that he was going to be successful, and even with Block Training and everything that he's doing, is going to be successful. I mean, has already been successful, not only as a player, but as a coach, making it to game sevens when some coaches want to make the playoffs, struggle to make the playoffs. I mean, just different things in his life and in his career, and it's going to be no different post-career. That's kind of what we talk about all the time with athletes. It's those things you learn when you're an athlete that carry on for the rest of your life. Hopefully you teach your kids and it becomes a generational thing, just like here at MoCo. See y'all next week.